How many times have we had conversations where we've said, I'm so glad no one is around to hear what we just said?
Twice a day?
Yeah.
Well,
now we're recording it and sending it out for the world to hear.
all right, so this is the podcast, I Fought the Law. I'm Steve McRae. My partner in crime is Brian Hilverda. He's here with me. Good Brian, morning. Say hi.
Hello, world. I'm happy to be here. And no, this is great. This will be fun. I am Brian Hilverda.
Brian, what are we doing with this thing?
So we're going to do a little bit of everything. It's, we can be informational. We can discuss legal topics. We might have guests. We might have clients come in and talk. We could potentially discuss current events, maybe. Some current legal events, non-legal events.
Might answer some questions. My goal here is just to share some information.
Yeah.
Whether it's anecdotal, through stories that I have, or whether it's we're really looking into an area of law that is bugging us, or things that we need changed.
Listen, we get it. Like, the law for most people is boring. It's boring, right? Like, if we go to a dinner party and we start talking about the law,
your area of law is boring. Mine kick ass.
We have the occasional good story, but just telling people about what the law is, not great, not exciting. But we want to get this information out there in the funnest way possible.
But let's also be honest. So I do criminal defense. Brian does insurance work, whether it's personal injury, car wrecks, or we sue insurance companies because they're not living up to their contracts. My area of law naturally is a little bit...
You have better stories.
Yeah, I've got better stories. But
Opposing an insurance adjuster isn't nearly as mesmerizing as murder, right? But we can still make it fun.
If we have an episode on murder, are you going to sing some Snoop Dogg?
Murder. Yes.
There it is. Okay.
But the world needs to know who is Stephen McRae. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I'm a Idaho native. I claim I was born in Arizona, but nobody needs to know that.
No.
I was raised on a farm, very poor farm kid. Was always told I should be a lawyer and had no idea what that meant. So went through undergrad going, I'm going to law school, went to law school going, what the hell is this? But finished it and then got a job out of law school in criminal defense attorney. And always swore I would never do criminal defense. Started it, loved it. It was fast moving, it was exciting, there were good stories, and I'm stuck with it. After law school, started working for a big firm doing contract law, and I still do a little bit of that, but more than anything now, I've stuck with criminal defense and go from there. I'm married, have 2 kids. We raise them around here. We do a lot of traveling. What else would you like to know, Brian?
What do you like to do in your free time?
Well, I'm a guitarist of a kick-ass dad band named Run Amok.
Woo!
Brian's the drummer of that band, for those listening. Outside of that, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm outdoors a lot. And again, travel quite a bit. Okay.
Nice.
Take it off of me, Brian. What do you do?
Oh, well, as far as practicing law, Steve mentioned, I sue insurance companies. I work on insurance cases. I know most people, when they start hearing about insurance, their eyes kind of glaze over with boredom. But for whatever reason, it's just fit my niche, so to speak. And so I worked as an adjuster for several years before going to law school. And handled cases that were in litigation and working with attorneys, and I was just kind of thrown into insurance law, and decided I really liked it. I just hated insurance companies. But I liked the work. I liked working with people. And when I was allowed to do my job, I felt like I was helping people. It was just a lot of the time I wasn't allowed to do my job. And it was about money and treating people as, numbers and that sort of thing. And finally went to my wife one day and said, I can't do this anymore. I want to go to law school and I want to fight insurance companies. And through a random series of events, I ended up in my hometown of Twin Falls, Idaho, doing just that, fighting insurance companies. And I love it. It's fun. Everybody's got a good story about how an insurance company screwed them over. And I'm sure we'll get to some of those. But
Brian, what do you think of insurance companies now?
They are the most evil thing in our country today. No, that's my usual answer. They are a necessary evil. It's just part of our American way of life, and most countries are dealing with an insurance sort of framework to deal with some of the losses they might suffer. But in America, certainly that's our plan. We rely on insurance companies to cover all sorts of things and sort of spread the risk of loss throughout the country instead of just on a handful of people who suffer those losses. But insurance companies, they're there to make a profit. They want to spend as little as possible, and even if it's at the expense of the people who pay for that coverage.
I have another question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite band?
My favorite band is Pearl Jam, and it has been for a very, very long time.
Final question. Am I allowed to do an Eddie Vedder impersonation on these podcasts?
No. That would jeopardize your spot not only in this firm, but as a guitarist for the band Run Amok.
Okay. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I say I'm originally from Twin Falls. It's where I mostly grew up. My dad was in the FBI, so we moved around a bunch. I was born in Virginia, grew up as a little kid in California, but we moved here when I was about 13 or 14. Went to Twin Falls High School. I was just really fortunate out of law school. I got a call from another attorney that was down here and said, you want to come take on insurance companies in your hometown? And it worked out great.
How does your dad feel about you partnering up with the criminal defense lawyer?
My dad hates you so much. No, my dad loves you. Here's the thing. As I heard an awful lot about attorneys growing up, right? Like, obviously they're picking apart like my dad's work, what he did. And,
sure.
And that's your job, right? But especially when I got to an age or where I got to the point where I was planning on becoming a lawyer, and my dad and I would talk about those things, he had the most respect for the criminal defense lawyers that did the best jobs, that they did the work, that they were prepared. And he actually liked working with those attorneys more than others, even the ones that he knew knew they were going to beat. He had the most respect for the ones that did the best job. They did the work. They made the system better.
Okay.
And so, my dad worked with some of the greatest in the state, Chuck Peterson, and knew him quite well. And Keith Rourke worked against him all the time. And those are legends in Idaho criminal defense. But my dad worked with them, and those are the ones he respected the most. So anyway, he doesn't hate you; he loves you, I think he appreciates the fact that you're good at what you do. You make the system better, Steve. Way to go!
Yeah, I try.
Yeah. So my family lives here. I'm married. I have 3 kids. 3.5. We've been in the process of an adoption for about 4 years now. And so that's ongoing. I'm sure we'll hear about that at some point. And I also play in the greatest dad rock band of all time, Run Amok. Play the drums. Well, not of all time. but of like this, current decade on the west side of Twin Falls with dads in their 40s.
I've heard some good west side of Twin Falls bands, Brian.
No, it's 40s dads.
Oh,
I think
okay.
we're the best, and maybe just like far west Twin Falls, just outside of city limits. I think we're.
You might need a couple more quantifiers in there
Might,
to
yeah.
make it, but I'll accept it.
We're at least in the top 5 in that category.
What do you want to get out of this podcast?
I would like an opportunity for people to know who we are, and for us to be able to talk about, for me personally, what they might expect when they're dealing with an insurance company, whether they've been in a car wreck, or they're dealing with a fire loss or a flood at their house or something like that. Most people go through those processes and they go through it once and never. They have no experience in it, and the insurance companies bank on that. They don't know the process, and they know that they can wear them out. And so I think it's important for people to know what that process looks like. And so for me, I would be...
Your camera's too hot.
Camera is too hot.
Do you want to know what I just determined I want to get out of this podcast?
What?
Only one thing.
Freezer pops?
Well, I'm going to get some freezer pops. I can buy my own freezer pops. But what I can't buy is, at some point, I want to say one of the stupid things I do, or do an Eddie Vedder impersonation out of nowhere, and be able to catch Brian's reaction to it on camera. It's the most priceless thing in my life.
Years ago, before Steve and I were partners, we'll get to the point where we became partners.
Oh, yeah.
But we were going to lunch, and I jumped in Steve's truck. And here's the thing: I'm a nerd when it comes to Pearl Jam, like total nerd. I get it, and it's a bit obsessive, and that's fine. Like, it's who I am. I get in Steve's truck, and we're going to lunch, and he goes, "Hey, do you hear Pearl Jam's coming to Boise?" And I was like, holy shit. Like,
you lost your shit.
Yeah,
That's what
I
happened.
did.
You
I
lost
was
your shit.
like a little schoolgirl squealing, like, what?
Why do you gotta make fun of schoolgirls?
I'm not. They just get excited about things.
That's adequate.
Yeah, and that's how I was behaving. So, anyway, you let me believe it for like 30 seconds before you told me you were just messing with me. And
It was a good 30 seconds for you, though. I could tell.
I was really excited, and it absolutely destroyed me that you were just with me. But anyway,
You're remembering it wrong, by the way. It was not in my truck.
It wasn't?
It was at my house in Jerome, Idaho. You had just settled a huge case, and you were getting your first huge payday at another firm.
Yeah.
And you guys had done some kick-ass work, and we were shooting pool, and I said it. And you were so happy already from this victory that you had, and then I brought that up. I mean, you were about to float away. You were so happy.
Yeah.
And then I told you they weren't coming. And
That's right.
I ruined the entire experience for you, and it was one of the most joyful moments of my life.
And yes, you're right. I was remembering it wrong because you did something else. My memory in your truck, you did something else. I don't remember what that one was, but I was associating that with the Pearl Jam story.
Was it when I introduced you to Luke Bryan? When corn makes whiskey?
You, Steve. Yeah. Anyway,
Back to the law, Brian.
back to the law.
Oh wait, actually, do you want to get the camera out of the freezer and put it back?
Yeah, let's get the camera out of the freezer and see if it'll turn on for us.
Yeah.
Lauren Hilverda's behind the scenes today. She's helping us out. Thank you, Lauren.
You just discredited me to helping out and producing your podcast.
Yeah, she's our producer.
I didn't know. Are we paying her for this?
What?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Cool.
Anyway, yeah, so we'll talk about things. I want people to know what to expect when they're dealing with legal issues. I want people to know what we think about things that are going on.
And for me, I want to make sure people know how to interact with law enforcement, what happens procedurally when you're charged with a crime, because it can suck, and then how to handle things and the value of lawyers in certain circumstances.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to be explaining the systems that we go against.
The man.
Yeah, we're going against the man.
Yeah. Either criminally or civilly, but it's still the man. Yeah, and obviously we'll be able to hopefully get that information out there in a way that's not boring to people. Most people want to be entertained when it comes to law. This is how you end up with shows like CSI and Law and Order. And it's not really like that, but some of it is.
Yeah.
And we want to make it manageable for people. So...
Can we end with the Law and Order? Dum dum.
Dum dum.
I don't think
In
we
the
have the rights to that.
In the criminal justice system.
So
What's
wait,
it?
Lauren's our producer, so she's our Dick Wolf.
Please don't.
Dick Wolf.
There it is. There it is.
Yes.
Hey!
Yeah, she's the Dick Wolf of this operation.
Okay, well let's everybody stay tuned. Next time we're gonna be hitting an actual legal topic.
Yeah,
And hopefully dive into something deep.
for sure. We're excited.
What's that face for, Laura?
I'm gonna dive into
Dive
something
into
deep.
something-
Dive into a topic.
Okay.
Do a deep dive.
Do a deep dive.
Yeah. On
Fighting the law.
fighting the law. Obviously, I think it goes without saying that we both enjoy music, playing music, listening to music, going to hear music, and hence the name of this podcast, I Fought the Law. A great song from the 50s, redone in the late 70s, early 80s by the wonderful early punk rock band from across the seas.
Oh, you want me to say
I
the
want
band?
you to say it, yeah.
Was it the Beatles? It's the Clash.
It's the Clash. There we go.
There it is.
I think I have my Clash socks on today.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, so we'll roll out the I Fought the Law podcast. We'll keep this going, and hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Now my camera's too hot. There it is.
There it is.
That's our cue.
That was great, guys.